Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is part 3 of the Big Book Sale Book Haul video series. I bought so many books at the Big Book Sale that I had to split this haul into 4 parts so that you wouldn't have to watch a really long video to see everything that I bought at the Big Book Sale. Part 1, which I'll link to in the cards, I tell you what this sale is and I show you some pictures, so if you've never seen that, check that out. Part 2, I talked about vintage mysteries, fiction, and historical fiction. Today's video is all of the historical mysteries that I got at the Big Book Sale. So let's dive right in. I found one of the Amelia Peabody series. I'm collecting this series and I found Guardian of the Horizon. From the Lost Journals of archaeologist Amelia Peabody comes a chronicle from the missing years, a tale of adventure, bravery, and terror. So this takes place during, it starts in 1907, the Guardian of the Horizon. I love this series. The Amelia Peabody series is funny and witty. And I just love the characters. I love Amelia and her husband Emerson and their son Ramses. Yeah, it's a great historical mystery series. I found An Ancient Evil by P.C. Doherty. This is from his Canterbury Tales series. Canterbury Tales are the stories told by a group of pilgrims on their way to Canterbury. And so what Paul Doherty did was he took each of the characters from that book, the Canterbury Tales, and he told a mystery around the story that they told. So this is the knight's tale of mystery and murder as he goes on pilgrimage from London to Canterbury. Yeah, as the travelers gather in the Tabard Inn at the start of a pilgrimage to pray before the blessed bones of Thomas a Becket in Canterbury, they agree eagerly to mine host Harry's suggestion of amusing themselves on each day of their journey with one tale and one evening with another, but the latter to be of mystery, terror, and murder. The night begins that evening. His tale opens with the destruction of a sinister cult at its stronghold in the wilds of Oxfordshire by Sir Hugo Mortimer during the reign of William the Conqueror, and then moves to Oxford some 200 years later, where strange crimes and terrible murders are being committed. So yeah, and that one has the buzzword Oxford, so that makes it even better. A Death in Vienna by Frank Tallis. This is the first in his series. It was originally written in 2005. This is also called Mortal Mischief. I love this book. I read it years ago and I really enjoyed it. And then I forgot completely about it. So when I saw it at the book sale for $2, I snatched it up. It is set in 1902 Vienna. In 1902, elegant Vienna is the city of a new century, the center of discoveries in everything from the writing of music to the workings of the human mind. But now a brutal homicide has stunned its citizens and appears to have bridged the gap between science and the supernatural. Two very different sleuths from opposite ends of the spectrum will need to combine their talents to solve the boggling crime. Detective Oscar Reinhardt, who is on the cutting edge of modern police work, and his friend Dr. Max Lieberman, a follower of Sigmund Freud and a pioneer on the new frontier of psychology. As a team, they must use both hard evidence and intuitive analysis to solve a medium's mysterious murder, one that couldn't have been committed by anyone else. I found A Fatal Flaw by Faith Martin. This is the third in the series and it was written in 2019. Oxford, 1960. As the city prepares itself for the inaugural Miss Oxford Honey Beauty pageant at the Old Swan Theatre, excitement is in the air. Then, tragedy strikes the competition when one of the leading contestants is found dead. Initially, the authorities assume her death was suicide, but after a malicious series of pranks and blackmail attempts are reported, WPC Loveday and coroner Clement Ryder are called upon to solve the case. In an atmosphere of fierce competition, the list of suspects is endless. What started as harmless fun now become a deadly race to win the prize? With time running out, the duo need to spot the killer before tragedy strikes again. Yes, please. Murder on the Lusitania by Conrad Allen. This is the first in his series, and he wrote this in 1999. Conrad Allen is a pseudonym for the author, who also uses the pseudonym Edward Marston. In 1907, the world applauds as the Cunard Line launches a history-making ship, the magnificent Lusitania, hoping to capture the blue riband for the fastest crossing from Liverpool to New York, attracts both the beautiful and the damned for its maiden voyage. Among its privileged passengers strolls the debonair American George Porter Dillman, a shipbuilder's son, and a detective secretly hired to find the con artists, gigolos, and thieves who prey on the rich and unwary. But the robbery of the ship's blueprints and a shocking murder take Dillman by surprise. Now, attracted to a woman who may not be what she seems, Dillman plunges into a drama of love and intrigue set in the glittering salons of this floating palace, and perhaps plays right into a killer's hands. So I've heard about this series. Each one in the series takes place on a different ship, and I just think that is awesome. The Hellfire Conspiracy by Will Thomas. This is a Barker and Llewellyn novel, and this is Victorian England era historical mystery. Cyrus Barker is a private inquiry agent, and Thomas Llewellyn is his assistant. When Barker and Llewellyn are hired to find a girl from the upper classes who has gone missing in the East End, they assume her kidnapping is the work of white slavers. But when they discover 5 girls have been murdered in Bethnal Green, taunting letters begin to arrive in Craig's Court from a killer calling himself Mr. Miaka. Barker fears that Miaka might be part of the Hellfire Club, a group of powerful hedonistic aristocrats performing satanic rituals. He must track the fiend to his hideout, while Llewellyn confronts the man who put him in prison. This is the third, maybe, in the series? The fourth in the series. And then I found a couple in the Daisy Dalrymple series that I am collecting. This is a series that takes place in the 20s, and Daisy Dalrymple is a great character. She writes for a magazine. She writes about country houses for a magazine, and she is married to an inspector from Scotland Yard. So I found Sheer Folly. I love these covers. And A Mourning Wedding. All right, and then I found, and this one I was so excited to find, this is The Detective and Mr. Dickens, a secret Victorian journal attributed to Wilkie Collins, discovered and edited by William J. Palmer. Now, isn't this cover fantastic? So, this was originally published in 1990. Here is a singular, engrossing, and suspenseful debut novel, a book that any reader, Dickens buff or no, can curl up and read with the pleasure one feels at being wholly caught up in another time and place. In the form of a secret journal kept by Charles Dickens' friend and protege, the novelist Wilkie Collins, The Detective of Mr. Dickens focuses on a series of real, fully documented events in the life of Dickens during a time of extreme personal crisis. Set largely during April and May of 1851, the novel explores the relationship of Dickens and Collins with Inspector William Field of the Metropolitan Protectives of London, one of the first professional detectives. Seamlessly interweaving fact with fancy, what did happen with what could have happened, the plot draws Dickens, Collins, and Field together to solve a brutal murder, a murder that has its roots in the Covent Garden production of Macbeth. Doesn't that sound great? Yeah, it does. And then I'm also collecting the Royal Spinous series, and so this is Crowned and Dangerous by Rhys Bowen. This is a series that's set in the 30s, and Georgie is just such a fantastic main character. This one is further along in the series. This is the 10th in the series, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is a fun, rompy historical mystery series that I quite enjoy. I found 2 books from a series that I have not read, but I have read the author. And this is Boris Akunin's Sister Pelagia series. Pelagia and the Black Monk is number 2, and Sister Pelagia and the Red Cockerel is number 3. Number 3 was written in 2008, and this was written in 2007. These are translated from the Russian by Andrew Broomfield. The first in the series is Pelagia and the White Bulldog, which I don't have, but these are set in the very late 1800s, just before the turn of the century, and the main character is a nun, and I think that that's awesome, and so I grabbed these since I could get them for, you know, $2 each. That sounds like a good deal to me. I also got a few Charles Todd books. One is a standalone that I read years ago and I really enjoyed, and it's called The Murder Stone. The Great War is still raging when Francesca Hatton's adored grandfather dies on the family estate in England's isolated Exe Valley. Among his effects, Francesca is stunned to find an unsigned letter cursing the Hattons and their descendants. Then a stranger appears accusing her grandfather of murder. Was the loving protector Francesca remembers really a vindictive man who cultivated dangerous enemies? And then I found 2 in the Ian Rutledge series, which I am collecting, which is a series that takes place shortly after World War I, and Ian Rutledge fought during the war and has now come home and gone back to Scotland Yard, but he is suffering from PTSD, and this is a cold treachery and a matter of justice. All right, I found some Anne Perry's. I'm collecting the Charlotte and Thomas Pitt series and the William Monk series. Both take place in the Victorian time period, and I found one from the William Monk series. This is The Shifting Tide. I love this cover. William Monk is a detective with Scotland Yard, and in the first book in the series, he has an accident and loses his memory, and he never really gets it back. And so that's the ongoing conflict throughout, which makes for fascinating mysteries. In the Charlotte and Thomas Pitt series, I got Half Moon Street, Southampton Row, Traitor's Gate, Brunswick Gardens, and Death on Black Heath. This is another series which is great. Thomas Pitt, he goes through a number of iterations in the series. He is a detective with Scotland Yard. At one point he works for Special Branch. At another point I think he works for the River Police. So he kind of is in a number of different positions, but those are always very entertaining. So there you have it. Those are the historical mysteries that I found at the big book sale. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. And also let me know if any of these books caught your eye and that are ones that you might be on the lookout for yourself. And I will see you for part 4 very soon. Bye.